Now I need to find the agenda that I wanted here. Thank you. We'll open the Village of North Bennington Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, June 7, 2016. We will start with a review and approval of the minutes of the May 10 meeting.
Well, I'll move we accept the minutes as printed.
I'll second.
Can I just make, I don't want to be, nah.
Okay.
I noticed that there was a reference to a bird causing tree damage over on Mechanic Street or something. It's not a red-headed woodpecker, it was a pileated woodpecker, and it's not killing the trees are dead. That's why they're in there. So it might be something, again, looking into whether or not one that's on the power line, we could maybe get the power company to take down.
Well, we've asked them, but I mean, obviously you just said it, trees, you know, one, it's a privately owned tree, it's power lines,
It's not our,
we're not messing with.
okay, it's not our problem.
If we can get our friends to help us that do that sort of work, we'd be more than happy to try to navigate that, but other than that, when nature takes its course, then we will.
So they're not right against the road or anything, or even if they are, they're
Well,
still.
they are, but the power lines are between the tree and the road.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just,
And the other, I mean, I had mentioned that I
Wanna
would
make
touch base
sure.
with Green Mountain Power, and then afterwards realized, you know, it's a privately owned tree, so we don't really have the right to. So I did notify landowners, so they do know about the tree, so they can, if they need help with it or whatever, we can,
if Green
we can
Mountain
certainly,
deems that they are a hazard to their,
they'll take it,
Fine.
yeah.
then they deal with it. You know, if we go in and 50% we get it, and we don't have a problem, or 50%.
Or you hit the line.
catastrophe,
Not,
You know, somebody's getting electrocuted, and that's.
no.
Right.
I wasn't suggesting that you take care of it. I was just trying to.
Yeah, on my part, the reason I didn't notify Green Mountain Power, I'd rather have the landowners do it. If they own the tree, if they deem it necessary, then they will, and if they don't, it really isn't our business to.
Yeah, they've been pretty good. I mean, they've already done a couple on River Road that were real big leaners for us, and, you know, I mean, if they can do it, they will.
Yeah, they've been good when they're in the area. If they,
You know, there's a big tree on Madison Road that's hanging over that big phone box, and we've told the phone company numerous times, and they don't seem to be any of interest, and that thing's huge, when that goes over, that's gonna do some damage. You know, and, you know, one of our concerned citizens tells me about it all the time, hasn't in the last year, but, you know, considerably up to that since I
And to
started.
be honest,
And,
their comment to a lot of that, a lot of times, it's actually cheaper on their end than to get a crew there and work around it. It's cheaper to let it go down, destroy what's there, and replace what's destroyed.
maybe.
that's,
So in terms of approving
In
the
America.
minutes,
Yeah, sorry. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes, or at least that phase of minutes.
I think we've got a motion in
yeah,
a second.
that date.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain. I wasn't here. Then there was a continuance of that meeting, right? And Bill, thank you for writing those up.
I figured I did it.
No, he just jumped in. It was great.
I was actually waiting for that, and then it came in, and I was like, I can do that yet.
We couldn't let Janice do it because she didn't show up.
Right, so I won't move.
Any comments about that or? Otherwise,
Here, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the warrant. Who has a copy?
I've got that.
An executable copy?
Yeah, we have 3 warrants, or
Okay.
something. And a payroll warrant.
Okay, well, let's start with the regular warrant.
And then there's a few warrant additions back from May.
Those are additions, or from back in May, yes, totaling $1,000. So I'll entertain a motion, or are there any questions?
So just real clear, we're on the,
We're on the regular warrant
Okay.
for June and a few back.
I will make a motion to approve unless you have a question.
No, that's fine, just
Okay.
make sure I was looking at the right one, mine printed.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Go ahead and sign that. And then we have payroll warrants, all standard fare.
Not that it's a big deal, but the last pay, the last check of the month, I've actually dated that to pay it on the Thursday, which is the 30th, instead of Friday, which is 7/1. That just pulls that tax obligation, et cetera, into the month of June. It's just a little bit neater for our fiscal year.
Okay.
Gotcha. I'll make a motion that we approve the payroll warrant for June 2016.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So you can sign this.
Then we have the warrant 2, is that right?
The warrant 2, I figured was a continuation kind of the other. If we want to, we can vote it separately if we want.
Yes, so we've got the payroll going on now, right?
Well, I'll move we approve warrant 2.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then we have a final year-end funding. Mary says this is just an easy way to get this out of the way, is to fund, this will be completed on June 29th, when she funds the various reserve funds that have been voted on during the March meeting.
So we'll still have
There'll still be-
there'll be,
Yes.
still be another warrant.
Yes, there will be.
Yeah, okay.
This just means that if I can get it done, rather than having to rush to the bank that morning, we'll have it.
Right,
have
that's
it
fine.
ahead of time.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And there's nothing that really says that we honestly couldn't fund them the first day of the next fiscal year
Sure.
as opposed to the last. But
Sure.
we typically do just to make sure we will have sufficient funds. As trustees do have the option of postponing it should there not be.
So this involves like the truck reserve fund that we do every year, and the tractors and the backhoes and the firehouse and the audit, you know.
I'll make a motion that we approve the year-end funding for June 29th, 2016.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Citizens. Are you here as citizens?
Yes, I am.
What can we do for you?
We live on 645 Water Street. Our house was just in a fire in April. And we just had it tore down today, and I'm in here because when we put our new one up, we want to put perimeter drain all the way around it. And I wanted to get permission to run it to the DEI that's out by the road.
Well,
I
that,
spoke to Norm about it, and he said to come in the meeting tonight.
and that's the standard way that's done? Or is that,
Well, no, not really, but in that location, that's the only way that it would even be,
allowed?
well.
It's flat and
It's the only way you could actually make it work. You know, what I explained to Timmy is, you know, a perimeter drain, we'd have to, just go in and inspect it. So perimeter drain is around the outside of his house. There's no floor drain, so it's just groundwater that we're catching anyways. You know, you have to fill out a permit and put up the bond unless you guys waived it for him. And then replace the pieces of sidewalk that's gotta be taken out to get into that manhole. And, you know, we got a lot of houses, you know, even on, you know, Mechanic Street, that would be perfect to do just like that, to solve a lot.
But that's the legal way to deal with groundwater on the outside of a,
It's an acceptable way, yes.
because
Yeah, gotta be on the outside, gotta be perimeter drain, which is, you know, draining the earth, not your house. So
Right.
you can't be inside.
that was the issue with some sump pumps before that,
Yes.
okay.
That's correct.
Well, again, I assume, is there an engineer working on this project of any sort, or you guys, I mean, you've spoke to Norm, you kind of know what you're gonna do. I'm gonna rely on his sense of that space. I know that you wouldn't be able to bring it to daylight there because there's no
wouldn't go anywhere, yeah.
there's no terrain, and to pump it out onto the street would not be acceptable, so putting it into the storm water makes sense to me. I just don't know the legal parts of that, so assuming that that's been vetted, I'm okay with that. Any questions about that?
Are we suggesting waiving a bond now, or is that something?
What's that?
Are we suggesting a request for a bond waiver at this time, or is that gonna be?
Well,
later?
that's up to you, it's a discussion, we can have an executive session.
Is that a standard, that's a standard $1,000 thing or something?
If you,
Tear up a
if you
sidewalk?
if you disturb a piece of our infrastructure, which, on, where that is, you know, a couple houses down, you wouldn't have to. You disturb a piece of our infrastructure, you gotta put up a bond. That's just the way it is, that's the way that the thing's written, and, you know, and again, after a year, it comes back. you know.
Do you know who would be doing that work for you?
The actual building,
Well, the
drain work.
The drain work.
Excavating.
whoever we hired for the contractor to build the house is gonna do.
We'll take care of all that.
He takes care of the foundation, everything.
So that would be a
All
question for
plumbers,
later.
cleaners.
I think that's a question for later then. When you get to that point, if you want to come to us about that, I think that's fine, or we could talk to Norm about it. I'm not opposed to the idea, given the hardship, and I'm so sorry about that. That was a horrible loss, but it's great that you're gonna rebuild there, and, if in any way we can be of help with that, as long as when that part of it happened, you know, if Norm was able to be there and make sure that the proper procedures were done, then I don't worry about the sidewalk sinking a year later, you know, if the right lifts are done and everything. That's why I asked who's doing it, so it's, when you get to that stage, we can talk about that. And most importantly, I think, yeah, I would, obviously, it's a wet area there, water comes off that hill. Did you have a basement before?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it probably wasn't drained.
Ah,
It probably wasn't perimeter drained in the way that, yeah. So it was wet like my basement, for sure. That sounds fine to me. Just, Norm, make sure that if there's any roadblocks with that, let us know, but otherwise, I'd say go ahead with it.
Yeah, I don't foresee any, you know, permits issued in our office, so that's
Right,
a real big deal.
no, I have,
Until, you know, there's, you know, later on down the line, you know, let's just say catastrophically, someone did something sinister and all of a sudden a rainbow started coming out, we're just gonna follow the pipe back, find it, and then it's,
yeah.
Yeah.
you know, that will be somebody else's problem that's creating the
Sure.
rainbow.
You thinking of starting pretty quick?
Very quickly.
Okay. Well, I'd say go ahead with that, and just check, before they do that final connection, check in with him again, so that he can,
absolutely.
and that's all I would think is necessary.
Now, where do I get the permit off? Right, you?
Now, you'll need a building permit as well,
Yeah.
which you'll get through Dan Taub. Norm can help you with, point you in those directions if you need help, but good luck with that. It'd be great to see you have a new place.
Yeah, sorry to hear about that.
You know, it was chicken, water heater,
They called it electrical, but
yeah.
they couldn't prove it was the light that did it.
I had a little light water heater in my chicken coop, and, that I had fashioned up, and I removed it. That was bad experience, but thanks for coming, and, good luck with it.
All right, thank you.
Let us know if there's anything else we can do to help you.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks.
More citizen comments?
Yes. Just, we were thinking about putting stripes on some of the streets in North Bennington. I totally agree with it. I think definitely the center strip, you know, helps keep the speed of traffic down, because people aren't trying to grab both sides of the road.
Yeah.
I also like, the white line along the edge.
Norm, you want to speak to that right now? What your plans are?
Well, we've recently acquired a machine through our government surplus program that can paint the center line and the white fog lines. We went out the other day with water, just to test it out, see how it worked. We still gotta get a couple quirks worked out of it. But if we do go out and paint roads, there's a difference between a road inside the village and a rural road. So we'll call Mechanic Street a rural road. That will get center line and white lines. The white lines they call a fog line, and then the two center lines. Streets like West Street, Church, Hall, they would just get the center lines.
Why, is it so people can park, or what, why?
Well, it's the speed, 25.
Okay.
They're narrower anyway.
We started painting fog lines where there's traffic, it's where there's sidewalks and stuff. It's just a waste of money, and we did some math, so let's say, College Road, right? It's 17 gallons of paint just to paint College Road one time. So,
That's not cheap paint.
Well, it was $14 a gallon when I found a state contract, and it was $7. And they didn't like it when I said, this is it, you know what I mean? We can buy in a state contractor and our name's on it, So whatever we were paying last year, we just cut it in half.
Nice.
But to do those roads, now remember, we paid, an X amount of dollars, everybody knows what we paid for this machine. But to do just 4 miles of road in the village, one time was $9,000. Okay, so when we paint these roads once, we're almost even. Twice we've saved money next year. And that's not to see if other communities.
There's other municipal interest in possibilities.
If we have other interests.
Right, and that's not every road, that's just a handful of roads.
That's only 4 miles.
Right, yeah.
Right, now we don't have to paint all the roads, obviously, Park Street's a good road, right, mile. You know what I mean, we have 11 miles, come down through. We use like River Road, that would get all 3 lines. And we'll see how we go. We might not paint everything this year. We might go slowly into it, but, our goal is to try to paint it up.
Right.
I think most importantly, and I think it's mostly your concern, that is College Road, maybe Madison Road, places that are more open space,
Yeah, Mechanic Street.
Mechanic Street.
They go fast,
Yep.
especially where it starts to narrow down to the three-way stop there. Have enough accidents there for no apparent reason, but boy, traffic does go fast.
Yeah.
I have contacted Bennington police a lot. They have started to try to, patrol more of the three-way stop. It does help some, but, they can't be there all the time.
Yeah.
Do you remember that there used to not be a stop there?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
just coming from
Right.
When we
Madison.
put Corey Acres Road in, that was.
Yep, that's one of the things we did, yeah. But just to make, I think, it was a good thing to put that in there, just thinking back, because at least they have to.
Yeah, and at the time, Mike Platt was road foreman, and
Yeah.
Madison Road, where it came in, was probably 3 times as wide as what it is, so they didn't even have to begin to slow up.
We narrowed that way down on the
Yeah.
edges and, yeah. Were you here for that? It was just before
No,
you,
I was.
yeah. So yeah, it looks like they're getting going on it. They've got this neat machine. I was watching them kind of getting it adjusted and, figuring out its quirks, and I don't think the thing's got more than a mile of, it just looks new, It's hard
Never
to,
had painted.
never had paint in it, right? Sat at some military base and,
What were they doing with it?
Just waiting.
spending
waiting for you to
federal
come
money
along.
just to. So, yeah, we'll be on that pretty quick, I think, unless you get into another,
Well,
Hornet's nest.
Our manpower that we had, we no longer have, so, that's a big thing, and, we talked with, a few people, when we do that, we need a couple people, we gotta have, they gotta be there, it's paint.
Give me a heads up and I'll move some cones for you or do whatever.
You will be the only one on that table.
Yeah.
Just to let you know.
That's good. I think that shows a good, you know,
But, you know, we're gonna, with painting, that'll probably start, talk to, Tanner that has helped us out in the past. A lot of that, the big intersection and stuff like that's gotta be painted in the middle of the night. We're gonna bring him back in, you know, paint till 6 or 7 in the morning. You know, just to start getting some of that. And we had talked about maybe painting those at night. It's the light, you know what I mean, with the other thing, we set up, you know, a couple floodlights and away we go. But going down the road, it's, you know.
That has.
plus it won't dry as fast probably.
It does, but, you know, the driver's gotta see,
Not adequate.
follow, I mean, you know,
It's a trailer on a truck, so you're driving and
Yeah,
having
I'd
to
love to see it.
try to keep that line
Yep.
straight.
you know, it might add so many more things, but you take away all the traffic. You know, we went down the street the other day, and there was a couple pedestrians walking up, and I kinda crowded them to see if they would move. Because, you know, when you're running paint out of it, I mean, Zach can set it off, but then you gotta start up again. And they didn't move, they didn't get out of the way, and they were taking up the whole travel lane of the road.
Your impulse is to drive around and of course then you gotta.
Right, and then, you know, yeah, we've all
I've
seen
seen
the
roads
pictures.
where I think they do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a little bit of,
Well, you know, would it make sense, Norm, for instance, the day you're gonna do College Road to,
close
close it with a
Yeah.
full detour up Madison and over if they need to come into
Or
town?
the only other thing you might be able to do is hire the sheriff's department to go ahead of, like a pace car.
Oh,
Or, you know, maybe you could even just have another vehicle, just as a pace car with four-way flashers, say.
like our little electric vehicle could go up front.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Again, people that are retired, say, hey, down the road.
Get up, yeah.
Hey,
Well, good. So look for that happening pretty quick. Anything else?
No, just, and the road I really like to see, besides mechanics, it could be College Road,
Yep,
because it's so dark over there.
that's
Say,
right.
traffic does have tendency to really go fast.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
Good.
Thanks for coming in.
Treasurer's report?
I gotta put my shoes back on?
Yeah.
This first one's going around is the fund balances. And the second one, which we'll talk about after that, is just a year-to-date with where our revenue and expenses are. So first, fund balances. We are sitting right now with about $210,000 that is available to spend. This is as of 5/31. If I take out the warrants that were approved today, the upcoming payroll warrants, the transfer of funds, and an estimate of what we'll need over the next couple of months, we will probably be down to within $50,000, possibly a little bit less, before we start having more, the next tax monies start coming in. So it's not dire, but just keep that in mind so we don't, like, you know, go spend $50,000 somewhere without making sure we have the cash flow. But it is a pretty good thing. The next time we meet, I'll be able to update the second list, which is kind of where the revenue and expenses are year-to-date compared to budget and also compared to last year. There isn't anything utterly shocking or surprising or concerning in here. I have highlighted the amounts that are not yet spent but will be with the funding, the reserve accounts. Do bear in mind that if you see an overspend, so to speak, which you might when you look in the highway department, do be aware that there are significant funds, income in there. For instance, the sale of equipment, there is an additional $21,000 of highway monies that go against those expenses versus last year, just because there's been almost $35,000 of equipment sold, offsetting those. When we do meet again and have that final warrant, I'll be able to update this, and also at that time, we should take a look at where, an estimate of what we'll need to raise in taxes, because there may be a little bit of discussion around there. I do not anticipate that we're gonna be over in any significant way towards budget, but we do have some issues from the prior year that we're still holding on to, so. But we can kind of take a look and see where we are with those. The other thing that we are still awaiting is that there's been a considerable expense so far, primarily in the retaining wall, and the grant monies are not all in. We did this month get $4,100 or thereabouts, matching the 80% monies for the depot renovation, but there are other of our grant monies that we have not yet got in, and then we will have those that will, obviously, we've spent the money, we'll get it back, basically, and that'll help the cash flow too. But if you have any questions as you look through it?
We probably should sit down very shortly, because we've pretty much exhausted the first grant, and now we can collect, because we need copies of all those checks.
The
that were
first
paid.
grant being,
The Water Street retaining wall,
yep,
and then we could submit and get that money back in a couple of weeks.
well, I have a whole file of it, so.
Because everything,
And you and I can get together.
mark that off and get, you can't do like a little bit here, a little bit there.
We haven't gotten that money yet on that initial study. We didn't get that at all
You
until,
pay it off first, and then
Okay.
you get it back.
good,
So,
No, we haven't gotten any of that.
good.
right, with the last bill from our engineer, once that's paid tonight, we can,
Submit
it's only
everything.
a one-page form, and then all the receipts and all the copies of the canceled checks, and you send it in, and you get your, 3 weeks, you get your money.
And I know BCRC has submitted several on the other projects, and so I expect to
Yeah,
see those
different,
on the other grants.
yeah, different lane, swim lane to get paid.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you get some time, we can sit down and do
Yeah.
that.
We can do that.
We can recoup all that money.
Well, being as we've spent, including what's in today, $31,000, that would be nice to get back in hand for the next project.
Yeah, for the next one coming up.
Anything else, Mary?
No?
What about tax anticipation note issues?
We won't need one for the
That's
village.
great.
Work on
Fantastic.
the one which I'll bring tomorrow
For the school, yeah.
But that's why I say, we'll be down to $50,000 or less by the time we need, we're
You'll start getting some-
money trickling in. So it could be that the first one in October, if we have, really, just depends on what comes up for the month of October when we meet that first week.
Okay.
But again, I haven't included in that we may get some of these grant monies in.
Right. Good. Thank you very much. Item 5, highway facilities.
Well, I mean, we kind of talked some of it already. We started our roadside mowing today. You see Overly, Madison, around Collins, and we're about through the rest of the village. Pretty much gonna stay on that for the rest of this week, because it's kind of cooler. That thing's hot to be inside. Hopefully finish up the first part of next week, Monday, Tuesday, and then we'll move on to painting. And then we'll just piecemeal that as we go. And we'll start on the crosswalks and stuff like that, and keep working our way through. The Water Street retaining wall project, we signed off. I kind of sent you guys the bid package the other day. Bill brought back a comment about the core filling of the road with the sonar. And the sonar and the geotech guys, we don't have a letter in hand, but, through our engineer, they said the way the voids are, even though they look bad on the screen, and we should actually just leave it as is, because we'll make the road worse.
Really?
But, yeah. So, you know, we gotta believe the people with the big diplomas on the wall, you know? So that's why that was omitted, and, talked to the state about it. They were like, well, you know, if it becomes an emergency, obviously, we can go back for emergency grant money, so there it is. You know, that project, Thursday, will go out to the contractors to bid, and I believe it was the 6th of July was the bid opening here. The only thing that we need, if you're not going to be here on the 6th of July,
Me?
yeah.
Where am I going?
I don't know, but you need to get, open that post office box in case anybody mailed one at the last minute. Out here, or give me a key and I'll go over. and
Oh,
get it.
no, I'll get it.
Big secret, like the water department. So, that'll happen, and, you know, that's the only loose,
How many requests for bids have you had? Or how
well,
many
we've talked
people?
to several contractors, you know what I mean, we won't know whoever buys the plans are, have to be acquired to the engineer at a small fee. You know, we won't know that till next week or the week after. You know, we've got, 4 real potential bidders that'll throw a number at it. You know, and then we don't, you know, the number's gotta come where we can afford it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We've been very upfront with that the whole time. You know,
Did we establish, the funding is approved,
Yes,
but is it a 20 or a 10?
I think it's 10.
Or was that only when it was emergency, was it a 10 and then it was
No,
a, okay,
emergency changes the amount you can get.
okay, not,
Still the same percentage, it's the cap.
okay,
So it is, you know, it is,
yeah,
you know, it'll be what it'll be. I mean, you know, we can't change that. It's all going out in a lump sum price except for grinding the blacktop and paving the blacktop, because that could change as it gets destroyed. And we can decide to either make it shorter or make it longer. There's no gain because we don't pay to have that road paved, the state does every 15 years.
25
So
years,
it's-
yeah.
It's coming up, there's no advantage for us to pay any more than we have to.
Right.
You know, we gotta fix what gets destroyed in this operation, but it's not like, hey, we got a little extra money, let's go another 200 feet. There's no advantage in that. And then we'll see what happens.
Did Mary hand you what she got in the mail?
Yes.
That permit, is that what you'll deal with? I guess you have,
This,
Yeah.
the permit thing, yeah, that's just a permit to do that job. know,
you have to post that, so post that over there? or
Yeah, I give it to
something? Give it to them,
I give it to them.
to David, or the contract, yeah.
Yeah, we have to post it somewhere, you know. I'm sure whoever comes in is gonna have to put up a job board with, you know, their safety plan and, you
Yeah.
know, blah, 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 then just have a copy and stick it up there.
Okay. Any other questions for Norm? This might be well, later we'll set the date. I spoke with, concerned people about the intersection, and they want to meet sometime with our board, and so they couldn't tonight, so we'll set up a date to deal with the final end of year budget stuff, and if that date ends up working for them, we'll combine it all. Otherwise, I'll just set a second date. I'd like to get this dealt with, figured out, decided whether we're doing anything at all or what by, before our next meeting, so hopefully we can figure that out, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the grant awards for all the Better Back Road stuff will be coming pretty short. You know, and you look on, like Upper West Street, I mean, even if we don't get a grant for that, we've been trying to fix that sidewalk for years where it's got those little steps. You can, the gravel just continually washing out, and we gotta do something up there no matter whether we get a grant or not. I mean, we may not keep going down the street because, you know.
Wasn't it your thought at one time to just get rid of that sidewalk altogether?
It was, but if we dig it out and we curb it, we could lower it. You know, we could dig that area out, we gotta dig it out to curb it anyways.
You don't think you'd have to
Put a
retain?
tall curb, and then blacktop the sidewalk up to the rest of the street, and be done with it, you know.
There's not a whole lot of room there, we'd have to put a retaining wall in,
I'm thinking that you're cutting.
I would
You don't think
slope
so?
that, I would slope that back down and,
would you stop room for a sidewalk though?
yeah.
Huh?
I mean, we could slope it down and get rid of the sidewalk and just put the curb in and be done with it, and just have grass. It'd be a lot easier for us to maintain.
I do not sense that that is used, that sidewalk is used. Although there isn't one on the other side, right?
Well, no,
Yeah,
there's not one on the other side, and people walk up to.
Because if we just got rid of the sidewalk,
Park McCullough House,
there wouldn't be much work to do other than putting the curbing in. You could leave it as is.
at one point in
you're
time,
walking on the street then.
at one point in time during the month,
Not that
each of you come find me and we'll take a walk up
Okay.
there and I'll show you, you know, I hate
Contract, there
that
is no
sidewalk,
sidewalk on the
we don't
sidewalk.
plow in the winter time because it's all that marble, it's 8
You know what, though?
inches of blowers on us.
We would actually need a sidewalk there because there isn't one on the other side of the road, I just realized. there was-
Or
School's right there, so we would.
Or could we put one on the
should
other
probably.
side more easily?
Well, you've got the new shrub line and the parking area for,
That's right.
Head Start.
Part of the problem with that area is just the growth.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Can't
get
walk
past
on the
all
sidewalk.
the bushes.
Well, some of the bushes might have to go.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not maintained by the school, they're always kind
The
of,
school doesn't know that, the trees that are higher up there is the job of the tree committee, and they should be dealing with that. Those are trees, but the shrubs are actually on that property, on that corner property that's for sale, aren't they?
Right there along the tree line and the fence line.
All right, let's go look at that, because I will, that should be part of the maintenance plan for the tree committee, if it's, because they moved trees, they did a bunch of work there a long time ago. I mean, otherwise, you can just go in there and do what you gotta do to make room, which you've done elsewhere.
you know, knock that sidewalk off, bring it down for one concrete pad in the corner, to put the ADA metal plate in,
Yeah,
and then we can, I would probably have the sidewalk paved from there on. Because it's paved.
yeah, no,
everywhere
that's,
else, you know what I mean?
yeah. Okay. Anything else for Norm? Any other, you haven't heard anything else about this building over here?
No,
Okay, we're gonna talk tonight about, that'll be an executive, because it's a lease agreement thing. Okay, DRB. I don't really know anything about that.
You know, I was asked about, I don't know if this is a DRB, but it can fit in somewhere, I guess. What, somebody asked me about the house on, it's all plasticed up.
Yeah,
Sage.
On Sage Street,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you. Do we know what that's all
I
about?
got that question too and I didn't know.
It's
I didn't-
asbestos.
Which house?
It's
The very first house.
on the left.
Yeah.
Glass.
The one that the Shires of Vermont had sold? So it's being, some other state agency
So are they
has it?
remediated, are they,
They're gonna fix, yeah.
I think it's a big-
so right now they're encapsulated until they have a plan to remove? Okay, thank you.
That's the one right next to,
Jones's.
Mary Jones,
Very
yeah.
next,
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
it's right across their fence line.
well, good, that's gonna get fixed up then, and turned into a. Fire department? Does anybody know anything? I do not. Water board, not heard much from them. I do know that they have received their report from their engineer about the PFOA.
There was a cost put out there.
Yep, the engineers for both Bennington and North Bennington, separate engineering firms, have made their reports. You know, I really don't know what implication this has particularly to our board, but the water department's gonna have to determine what their next move is. They now know what roughly it's gonna cost to do what they wanna do. 3.5 million, something like that, for us, more like 10 million for Bennington. And I looked at the plan, I haven't studied it closely, but it looks like it will resolve, virtually all the situations with the possibility of allowing people who were no detect to also connect in at maybe their own expense or whatever. It's unclear what's involved, obviously they're still having discussions. The state is mostly negotiating this. We're left out of those discussions completely. Whether or not, who's gonna pay for this. It could be that it's gonna be necessary to bond some money for it locally, and I don't know what implications we have in that. Obviously a bond is a vote, so it's something that the water board would probably bring to us then to. And there's a lot of reasons why that might be a good thing in the long run anyway, but that's, I'm sure what they'll have to do is have a meeting, public meeting about this, and hopefully fill everybody in on what they're thinking.
Matthew, you said you saw the plan. Will the North Bennington line extend into Bennington then?
It does in very short little spurs.
Across up Harrington Road, for instance?
Yes, it's gonna go up Harrington,
And Murphy.
or at least as proposed, and on Murphy Road, and possibly a short little bit beyond Royal Street to pick up a few houses there. I can't.
And 67.
And then then the discussion is whether or not they would take a line and upgrade the diameter of the line all the way down Park Street. Currently, the water line goes to Department of House, goes to the Terradon. And then it comes up from the other side up to Notzinger, or maybe in one house further, maybe, Peter Crabtree, and maybe even that duplex. There's a couple properties in the middle that aren't being serviced by municipal water. That would be one way to solve that, but in addition, that's probably a less expensive way to get a larger volume of water down to the Harrington Road area instead of trying to get it all in the existing line that's going down Water Street. If they had to dig up Water Street, it'd be much more expensive, I think, than digging up Park Street. So those are just my own thoughts about it. I haven't spoken to Goodrich or their engineer or anything about it, so I guess we'll wait and see what their thoughts are on that. Let's do old business. Let's set a date for that, for the end of year budget that can double as a meeting with concerned intersection people. Today is the 7th. What have people got? I'm not here for the next few days.
I leave it, I'm not here from the 26th till about the 5th.
That's pretty much me too.
So we want to have it as late as we can, though, to capture
Yes.
the unpaid bills.
Mm-hmm.
You could do 2 meetings.
Yeah,
Wow.
Do
The intersection-
citizens earlier. and then
that's fine too. It's just that
As long as we can
it
get
sounds
three
like
of them.
Mark and I are both gonna be gone from the 26th on for this month, so.
So that, if you want to do it the week of the 20th, I've got Monday the 20th, that's it. If you want to do it at any time after 3 o'clock.
Is that too early for you for doing end of year stuff? Probably.
No, we'll just make it work.
And then we can, if we have to deal with some other stuff.
Yeah.
I can do other times, I can't promise I can be.
No, I know. Well, so let's tentatively set, village budget meeting. How's that work for you? Mondays? Monday, the 20th? Probably gonna be after 5. for,
I'm wide open Monday the 20th, so I can do any time.
It's good for me.
I just put in
After
5.
3.
Whatever, yeah.
5 for your, does that work for you? Is that,
6 would be better than 5 for
can we
me.
do 6?
I can do
I have no
6.
problem with that.
Works for me.
So we'll put that out to,
So I'll put that out
Intersection.
to, yeah, to Art, and if that works for him, fine. If it doesn't, we'll need to figure something else out. But I could envision that needing to be a midday thing, in which case, if not everybody can make it, fine. We've all met and had, except you, and had our kind of discussion about it. Now,
Yeah.
if we are missing a member or two of this board to meet with them, I think that's fine. And Norm will make sure that you're aware of that too.
Norm, you're following up with that,
What's that?
the meeting, the,
I'll follow up with Art on it,
okay.
oh, so we said the 20th at 6?
yeah. Maybe we'd call the intersection meeting at 6:30 or something, or at 5:30. I'll talk to him about that and just
Yep.
figure out what works. Okay, any other old business?
I just want to mention that the sign down at McWhorter's Park has information on it
Mhm.
at this point. So there's some more to be added, but
Looks great.
it's a go.
We have like that tiny bit of money that was set aside to use for McWhorter's Park. I'll find it. We have $85.
Yeah,
Is that okay to be considered used for the expenses that just went through, or is there something specific?
There's nothing specific as anything down there.
that was what was left over from Mary, from,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so that can be used,
just, yeah, you could close that out and then add the rest to the, and you're okay with that additional expense out of the park
which,
for the sign?
yeah,
yeah.
yep, no, I got,
Yeah.
yep.
Sign
We-
looks,
we
the
kinda
sign
expected
looks
that.
incredible.
Yeah, he did a very nice job.
Okay, and thank you to the Laragos for their contribution
Yes.
to that sign.
Unfortunately, the picnic table's down on the beach again.
Is it?
Yeah, people keep moving.
Was that one we didn't change, anything?
There's no real spot to
Chain
chain
it?
it, where it sits. I see it today, I was down there mowing, I kind of spun around and I didn't see it, so I kind of went closer and there was some people sitting down there on it. And, you know, it probably really should get brought up and moved next to one of the trees.
Well, we could anchor it. Not, I mean, if there's an anchor and a chain, obviously if they want to move it, they're gonna pull it. But if it's anchored and chained, they'll maybe get the idea, okay, I'm not supposed to move it.
You
and they
mean
won't
like a
wanna try it.
5-gallon bucket of concrete or something?
Not even, I mean, I'm talking like a dog
Oh,
leash, spin it in, hook it in. At least it lets them know we'd rather you didn't move this. No matter what you do, if they really want to move it, they're gonna move it. But if we just do, we can get out on the cheap and just try that.
I have one
If
of
just the
those things.
suggestion, yes,
Don't
well,
have
that's
to.
what I said. Yeah.
You know.
So as a, you know, it's,
I think we're gonna anchor it, we need to bury a piece of concrete and put a big chain on it and chain it to the side.
I do like
Something
that,
else is just as big joke to somebody.
yeah.
If we want.
it's kind of like one of those, it doesn't hurt to try. I mean, the worst thing that's gonna happen is they're gonna pull it out and move it, and then we can go ahead and do the concrete. We can try the cheap first.
We've got some very big rocks down there.
Problem with the rocks is that.
But again,
It'd be nice if we could get, or power place to put one of the anchors for a telephone pole and screw it in and hook it to that. 'cause
I think the only,
they ain't never pulling that.
yeah, the only reason I don't like that idea is then we're kind of stuck on where we're gonna put them. Not that we can't
You can always unhook
unanchor it and move it, but, you know, if we just spin one of those, I'll bet you that if they look down and see it attached.
Okay,
they
Mr.
really want to yank it
Parkman.
out.
You guys, if Norm and Zach get that table back up out of there, and you and or I will do that little thing,
And we'll see if it works.
and we'll see if it works. And then they'll sit there and laugh at us, and that's fine.
Which is okay. I laugh at them all the time. I drive by when they're sweating and working and laugh at them all the time.
The ground's pretty rough. It's just down.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm the one who was down there digging the holes for that first sign, so I know
That's
how rough
right.
the ground is
That's right.
with a shovel that I broke.
Okay, is there other new business?
I have a couple things, quick things. First, Lori just called to see if I could check on the finalizing the accounts for Kelly Fields. And the way that works is, I mean, it's not tied into our fiscal year. It's a contract that runs from August to the next September. But where we stand right now, we've paid as much as we're going to pay, unless we go over, which at this point, we have, let's see if I can get these figured out. I should label these first. Which accounts are these? Prospect Street, okay. Okay, so here's the village garage. Right now, we've got 107 gallons left on that contract, and we've got $267 paid ahead.
Balance.
There's not, right, we've got that on
And
account.
that's about what those gallons
So,
cost.
right, so it'd be a wash, so, and there may not be, I don't know where the tank stands right now in terms of how full it is, but even if they do another delivery, we can just say, deliver that much, and then wait till the next contract comes through, and that'll be a wash. We have a little balance due, this must be the fire department, on the fire department. So we've used up the gallons we contracted. There's an outstanding balance of $268, but on this building, we have a credit of $1,300 with 543 gallons still left on contract. So when all is said and done, we don't have to write any more checks until we start our next budget pay, and we should come out with some money on credit.
How do we save all that money with the automated little thermostat or?
A winter that
It was a winter that didn't.
warm weather?
That, and remember, so this year also, oil prices were way down. We locked in at a good price and budgeted more. You typically budget for the gallons. Last winter was tougher this winter, so
They'll get us next year.
it'll come back around next year, absolutely. But right now, it looks like when all is said and done, we might have close to $1,000 that we can, the way we can tidy that up, whatever's easier, I'll let Mary make that decision. We either get a check back from them, start a new contract, or they could take that money, put it toward
the next contract.
paying down the next contract and figuring out the budget pay with a $1,000 credit. So whatever ends up is neater for paperwork, but that won't happen until August.
And I think that either way, I can do it a furlough and go.
Okay, so we'll figure it out at that
Do
point.
you know what have they sent out any?
No, they usually send out, I'll get something at the end of June.
Yeah.
They usually ask us to commit by middle of August
Okay.
or middle of July maybe. Because budget pays start in August 15th will be our first budget pay.
Would there be a reason, would it be cheaper for us not to do budget day?
No, so the way they work their program is, and because we pay
A good
our
one.
bills monthly, if you pay per delivery, you get a discount if you pay within 7 days of delivery. So you get the bill, you pay it. We would never get that discount. So by budget pay, the budget pay figures in the discount. So it would be more expensive potentially. The only way to save money would be to gamble and not lock in at their rate, and their rate is actually very good.
Or could we not somehow do a pre-buy for the whole season, even though?
We don't pre-buy, we budget pay. So we pay, so for instance, we start paying in August. They figure out how many gallons, they divide it into 10 payments, and we pay 10 payments.
Okay.
So there really is no other way to do it this way. The only other options are to pre-buy everything. So we can say, we're gonna use, whatever thousands of gallons, we pre-buy. We don't wanna do that.
Pre-buy when we don't have the money.
That's right.
Exactly, yeah, so that's really not an option. And the other way is you pay as the bills come in. Problem is, we'll never get the same price because we would always be paying after the 15-day period or
Yeah,
7-day period.
gotcha.
This is by far the best way to do it. And I think we've made out fairly well the last few years once we started doing this.
Okay.
And the last thing, another one small thing. Norm, just a question, I got a call from another resident. They were at a Little League game. Do we do anything with the bathrooms at Lions Park? Little League, toilet paper, paper towels, all that, okay. So I'll refer her back to them because they were out, and she just called to ask what the,
Yeah, we never had the old building, new building
Little League is always
You know,
taken
we
care of.
certainly, you know, they caught me being around here, said, hey, no toilet paper, you know. One of the people that works for Shasbury used to work for us, he still has his key, for the office, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Go into the train station, go get some stuff, bring it over there.
okay.
And we don't, we assist them, but no, we don't.
Okay, so I'll refer that to Little League. But our other question was, is there a way for us to have that available during summer hours, you know, basically from when school lets out till when school starts up again, you know, the end of August, if there's a way to have the bathrooms available to people there? And I said I would bring it up tonight.
Well,
It would be a nice thing to do. I agree that it would be great. I mean, I would be available when I'm around to unlock and lock, so we wouldn't put that on you. But, you know, if we open it up, we've got to be responsible for what's in there, and,
it is our building, right? It's the village's building.
yes, yeah,
Through donations and all that.
yeah, through our fundraising efforts, we raised the money and we bought it.
That's a tough one, I mean, you
Yeah.
know, all it
And
takes is
with-
one.
But again, my feeling would be that yes, it'd be a good thing to do, but we're talking open at 8, locked at 5. Unless there's a Little League game, and then Little League has a key and they can do it. So we certainly wouldn't have it open into evening hours, which obviously that would be the hours we'd be concerned most about anything happening in there.
So right now, Little League's servicing the thing when they're there.
They're the only ones that use the bathroom.
Right, but they're taking
It's
care,
locked,
they're doing
yeah,
it on their own.
yeah, I wasn't sure, so I had to ask, but yeah, I guess they supply the toilet paper, paper towels for washing hands. They open it, they close it, they clean it, they empty the garbage, they do
Well, I
everything.
know,
Well, here,
I know we don't do it.
Well, it must be them, because nobody else does. They do.
but here's my flip side of that one. Yes, I think it would be nice to use, but also then we need to check with Little League if they're gonna start buying stuff that we're gonna start handing out to the public.
Well, no, then if we do that, we would obviously have to,
Parks would have
Park
to
and
have
Rec
a
would
budget.
have to, we would talk to Little League and say, tell us what you use in a year, we'll match it, we'll see how it goes the first year.
Okay.
So we would ask them to say, okay, what are you roughly gonna go through, we'll certainly kick it.
But are we then by default,
But we would
really
also,
asking the village to clean it and to,
Yep. Which again, I don't think is anything that we need to push on to Norm or the road crew. If it's something we think is a good idea, I'll have to wrap my head around it. I can talk to Little League and find out. It would basically, if we made a deal with them that up until the league ends, you guys take care of everything. Once that ends, I'll go and do it.
or maybe it's something that you can budget out of parks, to have someone once a week do a cursory clean.
Yeah, no, if there's something like that, you'd want somebody in there. If you're locking it, you should. And again, if I open and lock it, I wouldn't be the one. If I open it, if it doesn't look too bad, you're right. We could find a college kid that could be on call to say, okay, we're at that point, we
You're
need you in
gonna
there.
pull a restroom like that, you're gonna check it every day.
That's what I just said. I said, it doesn't have to be cleaned every day, but if I'm going over to lock it and I look in there, I can pull the garbage, throw the garbage away, and at least make sure it's presentable. If it's not, I do a quick whatever. On top of that, we could have somebody go in and do a real cleaning on it. But no, you're right. It certainly would be something that had to be checked every single day.
Well, let's think that one, chew on that a little bit.
I'm worried about signing up for a big job. Not even.
I'm worried about
because I'm
seeing
raising my
smashed
hand.
toilets and sinks and
Again,
water lines blowing out.
I really don't think you'll find that in the middle of the day.
Does Bennington keep the one at Willard Park open?
Yep. I mean, I know they used to.
They have more, yeah.
Yeah, I know they used to, because I used to do a lot of running around there, so I would use them often, and they were typically open during the day. I don't even know, they might even keep theirs, I would be shocked. I don't know if they lock them overnight at Willow Park.
You know, if we ever did get a camera system there, I'd feel better about it too. No?
Not inside the bathroom.
Well, no.
I don't think,
See where your mind went.
I don't think that's what he meant.
I'm thinking just, obviously if somebody did something in the bathroom, like break something and run out the door.
I see I see the goodness in the deed. I see in our village setting, I think it's I think it's a very small, simple request that is unachievable. That's my, if we had a nice retired person who wanted to walk over and check them and you throw them a bone once a year, that'd be great, though. You know, those bathrooms need to be cleaned every day. That's just how it is, especially the public.
Is it set up for like easy clean, I mean, is it like all tile and concrete?
It's all concrete.
So you can just,
It's concrete and plywood.
and is there, and plywood?
Well, the stalls are plywood. So concrete, walls, concrete, floors are concrete, stall petitions are plywood.
Yeah, it's pretty utilitarian, but
Oh, yeah, it's nothing.
You know, if you could upgrade it to something more, even more institutional, you
And
could
actually,
just hose the dang thing down.
I'd like to get you over there at some point, just to look at the lock on the one. A third grader could get in that bathroom. It needs to be looked at.
Okay, that's another thing to think about.
But I will, I'll touch base with Little League before we meet on the 20th. And see how long their season goes and see what potentially could happen. And, I think it'd be a good idea, and if I have summers off, I could do it.
Yeah, well, I do think it's a noble and a good idea. You spent a lot to build this thing, and if it's only available in
All
a
right,
couple hours a
so
week.
I'll do some more legwork on that, and maybe we'll make a decision on the 20th.
Okay. I'm actually gonna bring up in general session here this lease, because there's nothing about it that, did anybody get a chance to look at the lease or to look at, we have some concerns, and one is, do we have, Lori, any way of finding the previous lease?
No, doesn't Rob have that lease?
He said he's
says
gonna
he
try to
does
find
not.
it.
So do we ask the state if they have a copy of it?
I would, yeah.
Do we know who was on the board at that time that we could ask to see if they have any records or?
I mean,
You know what, let me look through the records that I got from, the files I got from Ron. It may be in there.
Okay.
I didn't think about that, but the
I mean,
concerns,
maybe, Matt, it's in the safety deposit box stuff.
the stuff that came out of the safety deposit box. Excuse me, where is that?
In the safe.
In that safe?
Mm-hmm.
You know how to open that safe?
Nope.
Is this,
No idea.
It's pretty safe in there, man, isn't it?
It's very safe.
It really isn't.
Yeah,
Well, I
because
mean,
wasn't there
it's just a lease.
there was a situation with the lock, I guess.
Yeah.
So we haven't been able to.
No, I don't think that hasn't been open since I've been around, and I think
Oh,
that.
yes,
It has? All right. At any rate, the new lease is quite a bit different from the old one. The state has moved in, and Rob has made some rather extensive comments about some concerns he has. I think they're important legal questions, but he's also making the point that trying to get the state to do anything different than their boilerplate that they send out might be,
Well, no, spending more money to try.
it might be a waste of time. They might say take it or leave it. The only question really is that back in the day, it was specified in the lease that we own this building. And that they own the land under it.
Mhm.
And at the time, when this building was dilapidated, it could have, there was, and before any historic preservation stuff, the notion was if you want your building and we want our land, you can move the building. We're pretty secure now that they could never really make that request, as important of a building it is. But it's not mentioned, none of that's mentioned. So now what we're really doing is saying, okay, we don't own the building. That's the cursory, but maybe go
that's a
over.
concern.
That's the concern.
That's not,
By signing the lease.
They're not even saying that. It's just that, so I would ask that you all read, that I sent you on June 1,
Right.
Rob's comments about the lease, and I believe there is a copy of the lease. Yeah, right
I
here.
didn't read the lease, but I read all of his comments.
Yeah.
Kind of, definitely some red flags.
But what do we do? I mean,
And it's for this, so,
Right.
it's just for this building. It's
Just-
not for the other.
What does that have to be signed by?
It does,
I read Rob's comments as well, and I think that there are some things that are not very concerning and that the price outweighs them by a long shot.
Right.
But then that particular issue about the property being able to be moved or the ownership of it, and if that could be clarified by the 91 lease, I think it would be very useful in our decision-making to see that if we could. And it would be a lot easier to just decide, it's worth it, let's just sign it, or let's see if we can negotiate something, or just get it into the lease, that one specific thing, if we had an ability to review that 91 lease.
So if this is a boilerplate lease they sent, if they're not trying to contest the fact that we own it, couldn't they just send us something just to that effect to sign, and they wouldn't have to redo their boilerplate, we would just have either an
Maybe.
addendum to the lease or,
Well, again, but we would need to demonstrate that
Yeah.
with let's find the lease, I guess is what I'm saying. And if that's the case, and I can hand it to Rob and say, Rob, will you call them and see if that's something they're happy with?
okay.
Well, the title should be somewhere too. That would be the same thing. There should be a clear title to it.
To the building?
Yep, there has to be a title to it somewhere. I mean, that might be as simple as a call to
Town
Cassandra and just ask her, hey, do you have, who has the title of
I
this thing?
think he mentioned that he did.
I think he
review
did a
the
search.
records.
And he couldn't find it?
No, I think that was, I think he said that he had reviewed the history of the transactions, though, going back as far as he could, and then
Okay.
Couldn't find mention of
I don't think that's,
our ownership.
I don't think there was transactions after a certain point. I think that turned into the lease at some stage, so.
Okay.
I do not have a copy, and there was not one in the land records.
Interesting.
That's the lease,
Yeah.
but
Oh, okay.
whether that means there are land records,
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I stand corrected.
The new lease that has been presented does not recognize any specific rights of the village in the building, but only charges a nominal rent. Well, so I think we need to do a little legwork. I will do a little, see if I can't find that thing. If we can find it, maybe all it is going back to state saying, look, can you just add this addendum to that
Why
additional
don't
agreement?
you look for the lease and I'll call the town clerk and ask him
Great.
if I can find a copy of title to
I
anything.
can do that.
You okay with doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think if we had the title, that just, a lot of the problems then go away.
You know, a lot of things happen. You know, the building used to belong to the Scotts,
Right.
or the, you know, when it was built. And then it fell into disrepair, and then it was repaired by the Scotts in early 70s. At which point it may have been at that renovation, or it was in the 80s renovation where it was officially turned over to the village. I do not know.
Right.
So,
Yep. And I've heard multiple claims of different
Well,
people owning it, so
yeah.
I'd be curious I'm just curious, like, we come up with the title, then who cares what the lease says to a degree?
Yeah, I own it.
They can
yeah.
specify or not specify, we hold the title.
All right, well, just so everybody understands, once we resolve this, what we're gonna be paying, you know, now we've gotta pay all these, the treasurer and the clerk fees for recording and da-da-da-da-da. We'll get down to this. It's not, I don't see that it's anything urgent, you know? Really, I think we have another month to deal with this. I'm actually anxious to find out more about the one over here, which Norm keeps being told is
Well, they're
forthcoming.
gonna settle that one until this one's done. And if you put not that, it doesn't matter, we're not gonna be removed from this building, I don't believe, but if we send back anything to change a count, it's gotta go all the way through their system again.
I know, that
Several
was,
months.
that's,
And, you know, I mean, that could be a big deal, not a big deal, I mean, again, we're not gonna get kicked out of here, you know what I mean, if you are more comfortable with signing something with a few things in place,
Why don't we ask Rob if he can just have them do a 3-month extension? That would be easy to execute, just a 3-month extension of the existing lease. It buys us some breathing room. Unless you're not worried about it.
I'm not even really worried about it. Now, see here, right away in tract map dated June 1917. Yeah, I haven't read all of this because I knew it wouldn't mean much to me anyway.
I didn't honestly read it at all. I read Rob's.
Okay, so, we'll look into that further, if there's anything else in new or old. If not, do we need an executive for anything?
yeah.
We do? For what?
Actually, wait a second, before we
Sure.
move on from the lease. I'm just thinking that if there's the offer on the table for this is a very long-term lease, and we're currently under a long-term lease, if I understand.
I think their long-term lease
It's over.
expired for a while.
It's over.
Yeah.
It was expired, and then they finally, when they doing all this other stuff, somebody got, just going through records, and like, oh, we gotta redo this.
Okay, all right. Okay.
They're not stressing out.
They're not for, it
But
has
they want
to
this thing done.
Tighten up, yep.
You know.
Although they kept sending bills, because we paid the dollar fee, rent fee. We paid the dollar every year. We get a bill for $1 every year.
I'm just,
And we
the
paid that.
concern that I would have would be if we were under a lease, and then you don't sign the new lease, and then it just goes to reverts to a month-to-month thing. And then they say, oh, month-to-month, that sounds a lot better than 99 years, so why don't you just stick with
No,
month-to-month?
this
and then
new,
we
this
don't
new
like
lease,
where
this
we're at.
new term is 5 years, actually, in this new lease.
Hmm.
It used to be a very long-term thing where we did pay $1 a year, now it's $10 a year, plus all
But it's
the,
only 5 years. and
But it's
that's
only
the best
5
we
Well,
can
now they
do.
want 5 years, because they know they can charge us the 300, the 500, and the 50.
every time we do it. I think
Yeah,
so.
right, right.
Now,
For all those
I'll look
fees.
upstairs in the records.
Okay, better you than me, because I'll make a mess.
I know.
Well, it's not all my mess, but, yeah.
So Lori, are the contents of the safe deposit box all in that safe?
Not everything. I have most titles to vehicles.
Yeah, there's not anything of any value in that
I
safe.
don't know what else is in
Oh.
there. We haven't been able to open that in a while. A long time.
I'm
I've
just,
never seen one.
No.
I'm just wondering if we should
Should we,
take care of that.
should we, do you think, can
Yeah.
Mr.,
Yeah.
Let me call Adam Flock.
Yeah.
see what they can
Do
do?
we have a combination?
I don't.
It's a good place to start.
Anyway, so insurance, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have executive session for contract stuff.
I'll make a motion, we move into executive session.
Second.
Contracts.
All's in favor?
Aye.